Good afternoon, Evil, and I will tell you one story of a good viewing. I grew up in San Jose, born and raised, right in the heart of Silicon Valley. But whenever I needed to breathe a little, I drive into the Santa Cruz Mountains. I've been going out there all my life. Hikes, drives, just sitting under the trees, doesn't matter. I know those trails like the back of my hand. So when something weird happens out there, I don't chalk it up to being unfamiliar with the area. I know what's normal and what's not. This story happened late summer of 2019, on a Wednesday morning. My girlfriend at the time, her name was Amanda, and I were hiking the Loma Prieta grade trail in the forest of Nisene Mark State Park. Beautiful spot, real peaceful. That trail's popular, and we weren't the only ones out there. Even on a weekday morning, you'll pass folks with their dogs, older couples, joggers. Still, there were stretches where it was just the two of us, wrapped in that quiet only the forest can give you. The whole trail's maybe 5 miles, give or take, and we were about an hour into it when Amanda told me she had to pee. Trees were thick on both sides, but we looked around and found a little break in the brush on our right. Wasn't a path exactly, more like an opening that looked walkable. We stepped off the main trail, maybe 20 or 30 feet in, just far enough to be out of sight if anyone else passed by. I handed Amanda my backpack. She knew I kept some toilet paper in there, and she ducked behind one of the trees. I gave her some privacy and backed down the way we came a bit, maybe halfway toward the trail, but I could still see her squatting behind the trunk. It was darker under the canopy, sure, but my eyes had adjusted just fine. I was just standing there, arms crossed, looking around, waiting for her to finish. That's when I noticed something shift to my left. There was a mid-sized tree maybe 10 feet away, and clear as day, I saw a dark hand resting on the side of it. I mean dark, black as night. At first, I honestly thought it was some dude wearing gloves. Maybe a mountain biker who got nosy or lost or something. My brain didn't even have time to be scared, just annoyed. I figured some creep was spying on Amanda while she was peeing. Then the face peeked out from behind the tree, and right then, everything I thought I understood about the woods flipped upside down. Now, I'm not going to pretend I got a full, clear view. It wasn't standing out in the open. But what I did see, I'll never forget. It had to be 7, maybe 8 feet tall. I'm 6 feet 2 inches, and this thing was definitely taller. Only half of it was visible, but it was enough. The face had big black eyes, a wide flat nose, skin darker than bark, and hair that looked black with streaks of gray. I only caught a hint of what looked like a cone-shaped skull, like the head sloped back a little. Here's the weirdest part. I got the feeling it was female. Don't ask me how, it was just a gut feeling. Not based on anything obvious, just something about the way it moved, the softness in its face maybe. I don't know. Peeked out once, then slipped back behind the tree, then peeked out again. Both times it looked straight at me. And those eyes? They didn't blink. I felt like they were staring through me, like it was seeing not just me standing there, but everything about me, like it already knew me. I didn't feel scared exactly, more like stunned. The same way everything slows down when you see a car crash. You're watching it happen, and your brain is playing catch-up. Now let me say this loud and clear. There was zero chance I was pulling out my phone in that moment. I've read those stories where people say, "Why didn't you take a picture?" Trust me, when something like this happens, your phone is the last thing on your mind. I was glued to the spot, caught up in what I was seeing, and I couldn't look away. The whole thing probably lasted no more than 30 seconds, but it felt like time bent around me. And here's something I'll never forget either. The whole time I'm locked in on this thing, I can still hear Amanda peeing behind me. I was completely aware of both things at once, and it made the moment feel even more surreal. Like the forest, Amanda, and this creature were all happening in layers. After the second time it peeked out, it ducked back behind the tree again, but this time I saw its body sink lower, like it was crouching or going down to the ground. That was it. That was the last glimpse I got. Amanda finished up and started walking back toward me. That's when the fear hit me. Not the kind that makes you run, but the kind that makes your whole body buzz, like your nervous system just got a wake-up call. I grabbed her hand without saying anything and led her quickly back toward the trail. She looked confused, asking what was going on. Once we were back on the trail and walking fast, I finally told her. I explained everything I saw, detail by detail. I was almost out of breath, not from walking but from trying to process what the hell had just happened. She actually believed me. Amanda's Canadian, and she's got family up in British Columbia, an uncle and a cousin who both claimed they saw a Sasquatch when she was a kid. So she wasn't totally shocked. In fact, she wanted to turn around and go back to look for it. But I wasn't ready. I needed to get out of those woods. I needed space to think. We kept a fast pace down that trail, way faster than when we came up. I wasn't looking behind me, but I sure was listening. Every little snap of a twig or gust of wind made me tighten my grip on Amanda's hand. She kept asking questions, trying to get more details out of me, but my head was buzzing too loud to really focus. All I could do was put one foot in front of the other and keep moving. Once we made it back to the parking lot, I finally started to come back to myself. I sat on the bumper of the car, took a few deep breaths, and tried to piece it all together. Amanda stood next to me, arms crossed, still a little skeptical but curious more than anything. She asked me again what I saw. I repeated it, slower this time. She nodded, didn't laugh or roll her eyes. Just listened. After a while, she said, "You know, that sounds like what my uncle saw when I was a kid. He swore up and down it was a Sasquatch. Told the story at every family barbecue. Nobody believed him except maybe my cousin, but now I'm wondering." Hearing her say that helped, honestly. I'd already started doubting myself. Like, did I imagine it? Was it just a guy messing around? But the size of it, the way it moved, those eyes, it wasn't a costume. It wasn't a man. I was sure of that. We stopped at a diner on the way home and I barely touched my burger. Amanda kept looking at me across the table like I was some mystery she couldn't solve. I didn't blame her. I felt the same way. Over the next few days, I didn't talk to anyone else about it. Not even my closest friends. Amanda and I kept it between us like our own weird little secret. She started telling people after a while, usually over beers when the vibe was right. She'd say, "You want to hear something nuts," and then launch into it. People loved it. Treated it like campfire talk. Some believed her, some didn't. Me? I never liked talking about it out loud. Still don't really. But it didn't just go away. I had weird dreams for weeks after. Not nightmares exactly, but vivid stuff. I'd be walking alone in the woods and the trees would start moving, shifting, closing in. Or I'd see that same dark hand wrapping around a tree trunk, just like it did that day. Always the hand. Not even the face. Just that hand, solid and still, like it was waiting. I never told Amanda about the dreams. She thought the whole thing was kind of cool, called it our Bigfoot story. But for me, it felt heavier than that. Not terrifying. Just unsettling. A few weeks later, she actually brought up the idea of going back. Said we should return to that exact spot, maybe with some cameras or even just to see if anything felt different. I shot that down fast. No way. Not because I was scared, but because it felt disrespectful somehow. Like poking a sleeping bear. You don't mess with something you don't understand. I started reading more about sightings after that, just out of curiosity. Forums, articles, old newspaper clippings. Turns out the Santa Cruz Mountains have had more than a few stories over the years. Same descriptions, same vibe. Tall, dark, quiet watchers in the trees. People talk about the smell sometimes, like wet dog or rotting leaves, but I didn't smell anything weird that day. Just the regular scent of pine and dust. The one thing that came up a lot was how people described the eyes. Everyone said the same thing, deep, black, impossible to look away from. One guy called them eyes that remember. I felt that. Like it wasn't just seeing me, it was recognizing me somehow. That sounds crazy, I know. But that's how it felt. I didn't go back to that trail for a long time. Still haven't, actually. I've hiked other places nearby, but I've always steered clear of that spot. Not out of fear. Out of respect. Like, whatever that was, it let me see it. Just for a moment. And that moment changed me even if no one else really gets it. Amanda and I broke up about 6 months later. Nothing dramatic, just one of those things where life starts pulling two people in different directions. We stayed on good terms and she'd still bring it up every now and then. "Remember Bigfoot?" she'd say with a grin. I'd nod and smile, but deep down it always felt more serious to me than just a punchline. I think about it more often than I admit. Not every day, but often enough. Especially when I'm alone, driving through the hills, or when the fog settles low and the trees start to look like silhouettes. That's when I remember those eyes and that slow, deliberate movement behind the tree. It wasn't a myth to me after that day. It wasn't a story or a hoax or something made up for clicks on YouTube. It was real. As real as the dirt under my boots. And once you see something like that, you don't unsee it. You carry it with you. Time's a weird thing. It doesn't really heal something like that, but it does give it a little distance. Now, a few years later, I don't think about it with that same sharp edge of fear or confusion. But I still think about it. There's no neat way to explain what I saw out there. Believe me, I've tried. I've turned it over in my head, wondered if there's some rational way to chalk it up. Maybe a prank. Maybe a hallucination. Maybe my brain just filled in gaps and built something out of shadows. But no. I know what I saw. And the thing is, I wasn't even thinking about Bigfoot before that. Not that morning, not that week, not that year. I wasn't out there hunting for mysteries. I was hiking. I was talking to Amanda about my pain-in-the-ass manager at work. I had spreadsheets and deadlines on my mind, not folklore. So when people say, you saw what you wanted to see, I just shake my head. Bigfoot was the last thing on my mind. It just showed up. And after that, I couldn't unknow it. I'd go about my days, commute to work, get groceries, sit in meetings, but it was always there in the background like a note stuck in the corner of a whiteboard. You saw something. Something that didn't belong in your everyday world. I never joined a group or posted on forums. That's not my style. I'm not trying to be famous or start a podcast or anything like that. I've told a few people, sure, mostly after a few drinks. Sometimes I just want to see the look on their face when they realize I'm not joking. Other times I regret saying anything at all. But every so often, someone else will share their story in return. Quietly, like they're passing you a note in class. A friend of a friend or a coworker late at a party will lean in and say, hey, I had something weird happen to me once too. It's never the same story, but it's the same feeling. The same shift in reality. The same I saw something and I know what I saw, but no one else will ever quite get it vibe. I've read up more over the years, not obsessively, but here and there. I've learned that most people who've had real sightings, they're not out there yelling about it. They're quiet. Reserved. Some even wish they hadn't seen what they did. Not because it scared them, but because it changed them and now they don't quite fit back into the world the same way. That's how I feel. I'm not scared of the woods. Still love hiking. Still love the Santa Cruz Mountains. But I don't hike the same way I used to. I don't just zone out and wander. Now I pay attention. I notice where birds stop chirping. I listen harder when the wind shifts. I keep a respectful distance from deep thickets I would have walked right through before. I guess you could say I walk a little softer now. A little humbler. I've come to think that if something like Sasquatch exists, and I truly believe it does, it's not just some missing link or wild animal we haven't caught yet. It's something else. Something that doesn't live in our world exactly. Maybe it slips between places. Maybe it's only visible when it wants to be. I don't pretend to know. But I do believe it showed itself to me on purpose. And I have no idea why. Part of me thinks it was curiosity. Maybe it watches people all the time and most never even notice. But I noticed. And it noticed me back. That's a connection I can't explain to anybody. Not really. But I carry it with me. Like a scar you can't see. Not a wound, just a mark. A reminder that there's more out there than we understand, and sometimes, just sometimes, we get a glimpse. Amanda and I haven't talked in a while. We drifted like people do. But I know she still tells the story. Last I heard, she told it at a bonfire with some friends in Oregon, and someone there had a story of their own. That's how these things ripple, I guess. One strange moment passed from one person to the next. I don't mind that. The story's not mine to keep. It's part of something bigger. Something that stretches way past me, past Amanda, past San Jose and the Santa Cruz Mountains. It's older than all of us. And sometimes it just taps someone on the shoulder and says, hey, I'm here. That's what happened to me. So yeah, I'm not here to convince anyone. Believe it or don't. Doesn't matter. I know what I saw. And I know how it made me feel. And that's enough. Thank you very much and see you all in the next video.